Good morning, everybody. We're so excited to bring you this testimony from my dear friend Kristen Come. I'm gonna just introduce her a little bit. She's gonna share her Instagram handle after we do this talk because she's an incredible homeschool influencer. She's really dove into the Charlotte Mason sort of model of homeschooling, and you can just see all the books behind her. And she's just such a wealth and resource for homeschooling mamas. But she has a story and a testimonial with activation, and that's what we're going to share about today. So, Kristen, I just want to welcome you. I'm so excited. Your story gives me chills, and I'm so grateful you're jumping on here to share it with me today.
Thank you. I'm really
So,
excited to be able to share it.
oh my gosh, girl. So, you guys, Kristen and I knew each other. We were talking before the interview. We probably go about 20, 25 years back. That's how long we've known each other. So, we used to do these pilgrimages in upper state New York. If you follow me, you know I'm still a pilgrimage fanatic. I love going on these long like pilgrimages that are 60, 70, 80 miles over the course of 3 days and having mass every day and walking with fellow pilgrims, and you really create a special bond. And so that's where Kristen and I met. We probably gave you wine when you were like 16 at nighttime because I'm about 5 years older than Kristen. So we probably got you a glass of wine at night, I'm sure. I'm sure we have a picture about it too.
It was a lot
But
of fun.
Kristen, can you let's say go ahead?
It was a lot of fun. It sure was.
A lot of good memories. So
Hmm.
fast forward in life, I went my way, Kristen went her way, got married young, had babies, and then Kristen was in a terrible car accident. So can you just take us back to like when your injury happened, how old you were, and what the diagnosis looked like or the prognosis?
Yes. So my car accident happened when I was 23. It's back in 2010. And I at the time had my oldest child, and she was two. And so I was essentially, I ended up being kind of T-boned by a drunk driver. And I ended up tearing my spine. Like three vertebrae were torn. Ended up being diagnosed with disc disease and arthritis. And what they wanted to do was fuse my spine together at the age of 23. That was like, they looked at my MRI and said that's what we recommend, which to me, it was absolutely insane. I thought, I'm so young, we're not going to do that. And they told me it would help manage the pain, but then I'd never really be able to bend over again. And I thought, that's not the solution here. Like, I'm a very active person with a lot of life to live still. I'm not going to do that. And so they told me if I didn't, I would be in a wheelchair within 10 years, and that it would just be kind of a matter of whenever I decided to give in and get the surgery. And so I knew that was not my path. And so I tried a bunch of natural things, and I got to the point where I could walk for the first year after the accident. I was almost not walking at all. And I got to the point where I could have that mobility back, and I was just in a huge amount of pain all the time. But to me, that was like better than not walking. And so that went on for many, many years, and just this sort of escalation of pain and swelling and inflammation and just all different. It's really hard to dig into because there were so many symptoms, and they often changed, especially if I was pregnant or had a baby. And the symptoms would change a bit, but they were always kind of spiraling to be worse and worse. And so let me see, about 2 years ago, when I was pregnant for my youngest, now my fifth, I was getting to the point where like I would wake up in the middle of the night and try to like walk to the bathroom, and like I couldn't even stand on my feet. Like everything was numb. And it was getting to the point in the middle of the night, I would be standing there in so much pain thinking, I have to admit to myself at some point, like, I don't know where to go from here. Like I've tried all the things that are, not fusing my spine, and I'm in so much pain. I can't function, and I'm trying to hide it from everyone, including myself. But I couldn't even see how I would live another 10 years. Like, how can you live like that? And so it was getting just to a point I was almost completely hopeless.
Oh my gosh. How did, it's so hard for me to even picture being in that amount of pain. I think the only pain I really know is like childbirth and then it's gone and you get a baby. And
Right.
like and even that intense pain is just really at the end. And then you get like this euphoric like baby and you get spoiled and it's all gone.
Right.
I literally can't imagine. What's so amazing about Kristen is she's so resilient. Not only did you not give into fear and make a choice out of fear back when you were 23 after your surgery, because most people feel like they're not in charge of their own life and we just do what
Mhm.
people tell us to do.
Right.
And so the first thing that's so amazing to me about you is at such a young age, you knew like that's not going to be for me, no matter how fearful you make my future sound. But then you continue to live life. So you went from having one child to when you and I reconnected, you had five.
Hmm.
What did those pregnancies and then you continue to homeschool, dive into homeschooling, really dive into a philosophy that you love for your children. And her homeschool is beautiful, her family life. Like, don't look to me for homeschooling advice. Look to this lady that
Oh,
you blow me away. And just sort of the philosophy of how you raise your children, but you managed to do all that in such chronic pain. But how were those pregnancies? Were you afraid to become pregnant again? And then would it make things worse, or was it
yeah.
just you just were always in pain, so then you're pregnant in pain and giving birth in pain?
Right. So what happened was the first year after my accident, I knew I wanted to have babies soon, and I didn't want that gap to be really huge, but I knew I couldn't get pregnant like that. I couldn't even stand up. And so I did all kinds, that first year was sort of a get me back on my feet so I can have more children. And so at the 1 year anniversary of my car accident, my doctor said, I think you seem to have somewhat stabilized. I think if you continue getting help, you could probably tolerate a pregnancy. And then when I saw her a month later, she said, I was much worse. It was just such a roller coaster of pain. And she said,
Wow.
I think maybe you should consider that you might not be able to have more children. It might not be prudent. And she's a very open-minded doctor. She wanted me to be able to have more children, but just the
Yeah.
difference month to month was so extreme at that point. And the funny thing was, because she had given us the go ahead that first month, we had already gotten pregnant. And so I just ended up having a really, really interesting pregnancy where I needed therapy. I was in multiple kinds of therapy every week to just try to manage the pain. As it progressed, I was having a lot of sciatica. So I'd just be sort of walking along and just fall down. And I wouldn't see it coming. I would just all of a sudden, my leg would give out, or just shooting pains where I couldn't stand up. And it really got really complicated. And then baby number three came along very, very soon after. They about 6 months. I was 6 months postpartum. I got pregnant again, and life got really hard for a couple of years. I had, three little ones. I couldn't walk down the stairs, and so we'd get up in the morning, and if I was in so much pain that I couldn't manage to get downstairs, my oldest daughter would go and get me like crackers. She'd get us a box of crackers, and then we'd be stuck up there with crackers until my husband came home at dinner time.
Wow.
And other days I would strap one baby to my back and put the other baby on my lap, and I would go down the steps on my butt. I would just go step by step. I was so afraid of dropping someone that my leg would give out on the stairs and I wouldn't be able to stop myself from just going down the stairs with a baby in my arms. And then also you're holding babies all the time. And so that when you have a back problem like that, that really aggravates everything so much too.
Like, put it in the comments. This is Superwoman. Like, give Kristen some love. I'm listening to this. I'm just crying that's your um that was your life for how many years?
A long time. So it's been 14 years now. Um, and I was in pain until a year ago. So let's say about 13 years of this level of pain.
Sorry about that. So when you said like right before you found activation, that was five children later, and you were
Mhm.
going on about 12 years of living life like this, and then
Mhm.
you were like, maybe I don't have it control. Maybe this isn't I maybe I need help, or what situation were you in like before? And then how you and I reconnected. I remember now when I look back to when we reconnected, we went to a concert together in Virginia, and it was a family oriented concert, and it was really bizarre because it was still like people were masking and stuff, and we weren't masking, and we were there, and it was sort of family friendly and just a weird time. But when I met you, you have become so resilient to your pain, or the way you managed it, that I wasn't aware you were in chronic pain. I think you had said something, but you just learned to mask it so well. So that would have been maybe, I think, 3 years ago. And then you started activation last year. So
Hmm.
where were you in that time? Like I know you were talking about just feeling so foggy and so
Yeah.
almost like drunk with pain that you just
Yeah.
managed.
Yeah. So when we reconnected, my youngest at that point was probably 7 or 8. And so what was happening as my babies were getting old enough that I didn't have to hold them all the time, I was able to sort of start exercising a tiny bit, and I was just trying to learn to manage the pain, like kind of reapproaching it and like, what can we do here if I'm not constantly aggravating it by holding children? And so at that time, I had started some physical therapy. I was throwing so many things at it. I was taking all kinds of different anti-inflammatory supplements, and like doing CBD oil and all kinds of topical things to try to manage the pain from moment to moment. And one of the other things was that my weight was just slowly going up, and I just felt like inflammation had a part of that because I couldn't lose it no matter what I did. And I just felt like my body was like swelling and just felt like pressure all the time. And so um, I was starting to be able to manage it. I never really was on top of it, but I was managing it enough that I decided, let's have more kids. Like I don't want, I'm not at peace with saying we're done at 3 children. Like that was just too painful. And so I decided to keep getting help and doing things like massage and physical therapy, and hoping that would help me get through another pregnancy. And so shortly after we reconnected, I got pregnant again and went right back into that whole managing of this triggering pain, like where it was really extreme, um, through pregnancy and then postpartum again. And then when I finally started taking activation, I decided to start activating. I had just given birth to my fifth. So I had again that two babies close together. And things were just reaching such a point. I was like, I've tried everything except this. It was a new thing I found out about.
Oh my gosh. And so were you hesitant to try something new? Were you like what is that feeling when you're like, okay, this is something different than I've ever heard of. This person is talking about activation. It's talking about not supplementing the body. It's talking about using natural herbs and compounds to activate the body to go to work to heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a little bit of hope, but at the same time, is it a little bit defeating to hear of something else to try?
So on one hand, I was hopeful because it all made sense. The whole, like, there's oxidative stress that we're all dealing with, and I'm clearly dealing with massive amounts of inflammation, and that is exactly what activation is going to fix, and fix my cells to be able to process this and get rid of the inflammation. And so that all made sense, and I was excited to try it. But at the same time, I had tried a lot of anti-inflammatory things on their own separately, even some of the things that are in the activation products where it's like turmeric. It wasn't helping me
Yeah.
on its own. It wasn't enough. But then I was excited about trying it in the synergy with the other anti-inflammatory products, um, where essentially I had a very low standard of like, I didn't have hope or expectations, but I
Your expectations were not very high.
no, they weren't. Like the science made sense, and I was like that it would not be very. I feel like it could help, but I also don't want to get my hopes up because I've tried so many things.
So you started on our Tr-Synergizer,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Right
Yes.
off the bat.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I
so
would
you guys,
recommend that.
Tr-Synergizer, the way we address health is it's always good, better, best. And so good. And when I say good, that's kind of the understatement of the century because nerve to activation is literally Washington State University said it's the single most important thing anyone could do for health and prevention. Like the single most important thing. And so just NRF2 alone is recalibrating your genes, fine-tuning them towards health, increasing our or turning on our antioxidant factory that our body makes. And when our body makes an antioxidant, it's a million times more powerful than any antioxidant we can consume, right? So if you're taking high dose vitamin C or right, it's only fighting the free radicals or the oxidative stress on a 1-to-1 scale. But when
Right.
you activate it, it's fighting on a 1,000,000-to-1 scale every second of the day. And it's not a forced process. It's literally the power of the human body. Like it's the same power of the human body that takes cells and then creates a whole human being in 9 to 10 months, right? So we're talking about tapping into that. And I always also tell people it's like the difference between a formula, even if it's the best one on the market, versus breast milk. You can never compare the two. Like what the body makes
Mm.
is incredible. So we are taking these things to make it. We take it to make it in our body. And so Kristen was on the Tr-Synergizer, which is the NRF2 activator. And then the second activator is our NRF1 activator, and that it builds up the mitochondria of the body. So you have your detox pathways open, all the antioxidants working, you have your body's being recalibrated to where it needs to be for homeostasis. Then you add in the mitochondria. So now each cell is activated to go to work in the positive, in the like offense and start scoring points for the body. And then we had NAD. And so our NAD is not a supplement, it's an activator. So it's activating those sirtuins for cell autophagy by 100% in just 24 hours. Like the thing is incredible. You can do like cold plunges and things like that to activate sirtuins, and they're awesome for that, or like severe caloric restriction. But even that will not activate the sirtuins like these activators do. I think like the cold plunges may do it like 90%, 90 to 94%, and this is 100% in like just 24 hours. And then if you're taking a supplement for NAD, you're really wasting your money because it's 4%. It's like it's a nothing, right? So this is what we're talking about here is awakening the body. And so let me like tell us about your journey. You go from chronic pain, constant pain, you start taking the Tr-Synergizer, and then what was your timeline in like the first couple days, if you remember, your first month, your first 2 months, 3 months, and then like finally that year of being activated?
Yeah, so I think after about a week, I started to tell my husband, I'm noticing a little bit less pain. I'm not sure if I'm imagining this, like I'm definitely having a little lower pain level on the daily basis. And then I was getting close to the end of my first month, and one night, like I said, I get up at night to go to the bathroom and can't even stand on my feet. And I stood up and was like, wait a minute, my feet don't hurt. Like, is this, and I stopped and I thought back and I thought, well, it's not been so bad lately either. Like, it's, how long has this been going? Because it was starting to naturally fade away. And it was not an overnight miracle, but it, within that first month, I had no hopes that the first month, like I thought maybe 3 or 6 months, let's give it some time, because this has been a lot of things for a long time and I expected it to take a long time. But at the end of that first month, I was already having so many changes. I was still thinking like, am I just, is this, am I imagining it? Like, it's such a big difference. So by the end of 3 months, I was over 60% of my pain was gone, which is saying a lot, because at that point I was regularly in at least like 7 out of 10 level pain. And so that was dropping so quickly down. And it's hard to remember the exact timeline, because it was very naturally fading off, and I would find myself doing something I hadn't done in a decade. And one day I found myself sitting on the floor cross-legged with my babies, and I had had so much inflammation in my hips I couldn't sit. Like the pressure just to sit on the floor or the ground just hurt too much. And so I realized I was sitting, and I had had no trouble getting down there. I hadn't had all the stiff joints, and I had a baby on my lap, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is definitely working. And my older kids heard me telling my husband, like, look, I'm sitting on the floor, this doesn't hurt, I feel fine. And they were like, that's why you haven't been sitting on the floor and playing like down on the ground with us. Like, they didn't know all, like, they're children, they know I'm in pain, but they don't realize all the way it's affecting your daily life. And so I think I was probably around the 6 month mark that I felt like I've stabilized at probably 90% pain reduction. And I thought
Wow.
it probably can't get better than this. Like, this is way, way beyond my expectations. I was starting to just live life like normal. And then funny thing happened at that point. I started doing so much that was normal. I started building a garden fence, and I built I converted a chicken coop over, and I was like carting like 10 cubic yards of dirt into my garden and things like that. And I actually like threw my back out like on a skeletal level, because I was doing so much and I hadn't like fixed the core strength that I had lost over 14, 13 years.
Oh,
And so
wow. Yes.
at that point, I ended up going back to physical therapy and realizing like I can exercise now. That was one of the things I had lost. I can't remember if I mentioned that. I couldn't
You
exercise.
did. You were
Yeah.
talk
So
more to that. Talk more to that because you had mentioned that to me and I think that's so valuable.
yeah. So at first, right after my accident, I was, staying active. One of my doctors had said, staying active is going to be the most important thing in your life, staying like very active, like on a high athletic level, because once you lose it, you might not get it back. And as I'm having children, I'm losing it and I am aggravating things and, going from being able to walk for an hour to like 10 minutes and then 5 minutes and then a quarter mile once a week and then having to rest because I'm in so much pain. And what was happening is exercise would trigger so much inflammation for some reason. It was like a tripwire. And no matter what I did or how mild it was, we couldn't find that point, even with the help of physical therapists. And I tried several. We couldn't find the point at which I could start and do consistent exercise to build off of. It was like everything was a trigger. And so that was really a wall because I was losing that like basic core foundational strength, which was making everything worse.
So you're
So
stuck between a rock and a hard place.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You
And
have
that
you need to do this to get better, but it's making it worse here. And then you're
exactly.
stuck.
Exactly. And I tried so many people and there was like no solution. And so um after being activated for about 6 months, I realized I can exercise and I can actually build like normal and I haven't triggered my inflammation since then. So a few months ago, I think about 4 months ago, maybe I got a new physical therapist. She's really good and she's got me on this daily routine. I'm going to keep going to her because I can see that like it's very helpful to have someone who can like look at your where you are and where exactly your weak points are and give you a specific plan so that you're working very intentionally towards rebuilding. And I'm doing it's amazing. I'm just still amazed. Like I do a full my exercise routine every day involves like 100 lunges and squats and a bunch of other stuff
No way.
and I can do it. Like I'm just still amazed and I couldn't do
And so where are you? Because you've been, and this is important to know about activation. So I wanted to ask you where you are at a year, but before I do that, you were telling me like you had watched me on social media talk about activation.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes time for people to connect, or maybe we're not doing the best job at communicating that Nerve 2 is not for a specific issue.
Mm-hmm.
Activation isn't for like if you find yourself in this terrible situation, you need to activate.
Right.
Activation makes your body do what it's supposed to do. So if you guys want an awesome pregnancy, get activated so you can have an awesome pregnancy and you don't have to go out there and get progesterone injections and you don't have to, you know, get all these things that you're putting on your body. Activate your body so you don't have to go get glutathione injections and glutathione IV. Activate your body so you don't have to go get vitamin C drips, right? Activate your body for optimal health. Activate your body if you're in a deficit and you're living in chronic pain or you have a disease, activate your body because it's going to help your body figure it out. And then again, like because it's activation, because it's your body calling the shots, I just know the science and I'm just the messenger and I love it. So when I give it to someone like Kristen, it's almost like an act of faith on my part too, because I know the science of the products, I know what they do, but I don't know what they're going to do in Kristen's body. I know that they're going to get to
Right.
work working on her NERV2 pathway, her antioxidants. It's going to start saying, okay, here are the biggest fires. Let's go put these out. And it knows, the body knows where the big fires are, but I don't know what to tell Kristen. I can't say, okay, so in 3 months your pain should patter off, and in six
Right.
months you should be able to do exercise, and by a year you'll be pain free. I don't know. It's
Right.
literally like telling someone about the Gospels and being like, I don't know, it's true. Like I don't know what God is gonna
Right.
do in your with all this.
Right.
So that was you, and it took you a second to understand like this could be something for you because maybe we were talking about fertility or maybe we were talking about just a whole spectrum of different things and different
Right.
issues that people deal with.
Right. Exactly. And also just opening myself up to like hope, having some hope again and trying something new when I was reaching a point, is like, nothing is working. And also not understanding the science very well, but seeing the results. And so I'm sort of standing here on the other side where I've had these results and I'm like, tell me what has happened to me. Like everything is different. I'm supposed to be incurable. I'm supposed to be in a wheelchair by now. I'm supposed to be unable to stand without fusing my spine. And my pain level right now is 0. And that's not weird anymore. That's my life. And so I have my life back. Everything is completely different.
Oh my gosh. And this is what, like, this is what I get to do for a living for the last 5.5 years. And it's been having these kind of conversations and these kind of stories and these kind of aha moments has been my life for the last 5.5 years. It's so incredible. Like, if you want to build your belief in these products, start getting friends and family on it and start hearing their testimonials because it will just like blow your ever loving mind. It's so incredible. And so this is what I get to do. And this is what has been sustaining my family for the last 2.5 years completely. And we're a family of 10 and we live on the road. Like you can see us traveling. So I love also sharing the business side with my friends and family because it's been such an incredible blessing. And so Kristen is joining the business. It's something that you once you take activation, you don't ever want to stop taking activation at all. Like you just
Yeah.
it just helps you. Like and here's the thing too is Kristen started because she was in chronic debilitating pain. I've never been in chronic debilitating pain. I just don't want to be in chronic debilitating pain. And I want to have optimal pregnancies and I don't want to have miscarriages and I want to be able to just my body to work optimally. So for example, even breastfeeding for me. Like it's so funny. My first son, I breastfed for 6 months and then I started to lose all my breast milk. And then we went to supplement formula, probably like 6 months old. And that was 16 years ago. And then after him, with my second and subsequent babies, I was like, my goal was always to get to 1 year, but it was really hard. It was like drying out, but I was like, I gotta get to 1 year. It was my big thing. And I did everything to make that happen holistically. And now it just amazes me because with my 3 activated babies, not only have they come out so pristine, so healthy, the best APGAR scores, the best pregnancies, great labor, really pristine umbilical cord, but that my milk supply is like, how old is my baby? She's 14. And if I'm gone from her for 4 hours, I'm gushing and I need to come like back and nurse her. So it's amazing how when your body works, you just have a better life. So
Yeah.
that's what activation is about. So if you're listening to this, reach out to Kristen and if you're either going through pain or you're just curious or you just want to live optimally and have your best health because we were talking, just Kristen and I, just even in our homeschool community, what are you seeing? Like, we live in a hijacked environment. So people are not like we tend to think of people as like living
Mhm.
healthy. And maybe if you saw Kristen, who's such a champion, who buried her pain for all those years, that even her children didn't understand why she wasn't sitting on the floor. There's a lot of moms being resilient, raising their families, and just suffering in silence or having a lot of pain or issues. Um, and I know you were talking about that. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I do see that a lot. And among different homeschool mothers, I've seen a lot of different people sharing just that they're doing the best they can, but they're really struggling to manage their own various health conditions or suffering. And it really affects them being a mom, being able to hold their babies or, help their kids because they have to constantly consider their chronic pain and, whether they need to just be done and lay down for the day or if we're homeschooling, every day is a crock pot meal because I don't have the energy at the end of the day. I'm in pain and I need to go to bed. And so I see
Yes.
that so often, and women deal with so many issues and, just try to soldier on, I think, and just put up with it and live our vocations well without really taking care of ourselves.
Isn't it true? And that whole concept of putting your oxygen mask on first, we tend to be selfless, but really
Yeah.
it's filling our cup first so that we can pour from that cup. And I'll say one thing I'll say about activation that I just love so much is I have friends too, and when you are maybe like Kristen and I, and you don't have a lot of faith in mainstream medicine and allopathic medicine and doctors and you're not getting answers, we go to the holistic route. We go to our naturopathic doctor or functional medicine doctor.
Mhm.
And not to say that's not incredible, you know, and especially chiropractors. I love chiropractic um procedures and seeing a chiropractor. But when you're going to something like a functional medicine doctor, a lot of times they're doing what the mainstream doctors are doing in that they are looking at the symptoms and then
Right.
prescribing you something for those symptoms to help
Yep,
you, right?
exactly.
And so the one is doing it with drugs, the other one is doing it with supplements and herbs and tinctures, which this is where I tend to believe in, right? But what we're doing with activation is we're going a step beyond. We're taking the tinctures and the herbs and we're using them in a synergy that is not, it's not acting like a supplement, but it's acting like an activator. It's going in there and switching the body back on to do what it needs to do. Right. So that's the difference right there.
Mhm.
So Kristen, do you have anything else you want to share before we close out?
I don't think so. There's so many things. I'm still like learning how to refine my thoughts here. It's so much. It's hard to describe to someone when you get your life back, just what that means and how much it affects every single thing that you do. And to walk around being like, I'm not in pain. I feel fine. I putting my clothes on by myself. I can put my shoes on without asking my kids for help and things like that. Like it's hard to describe to someone, the difference, the chasm, unless you've been in chronic pain and seen everything falling apart. Um, Activation has been unbelievable for me. I still can't believe it. Every single day, I'm still just pinching myself. Like, is this real? This is continuing? It really is. And I am well. Like, how is that even possible? Like, I still don't know how to explain it.
I'm so grateful and I'm so grateful that you had the hope, like that you saw this and you were like, I'm going to try one more thing. I'm
Me
going to do that thing. So
too.
it's so powerful. Kristen, I know you're going to change so many lives. Your story is powerful. It like literally I have goosebumps on my arm right now just talking to you. And here's I'm always like, and one more thing, and one more thing. What I love too is when people start activation and they start looking at the business, they want to have their own story. They want to have their own aha story. And I'm like, there's millions of aha stories. Like you are waiting, you're holding up the health of other people. You're waiting in a sense, it's
Right.
almost selfish. Like you're waiting to have your own story, but there's so many millions of stories already that have happened. And when we hold back like that, then we're not changing people's lives like your life. Because I just know I feel amazing. I know that I don't relate to other moms when they talk about being tired, bogged down, and
Right.
and just so many issues that the moms face. And my pregnancies have been really great, even though I'm 42. And I've just had optimal health, and so I can't relate, but I know that it's because of my activators, right? So we'll close it up, Kristen. I'm sure we're going to do another one because she was telling me that it's just hard to unpack like for how many years, 14 years of just
Yeah.
absolute chronic pain and trying to put that into like a 25-30 minute Zoom call and sharing her activation story. So we hope we got the message to you. I think you did such a brilliant job of conveying that to us, Kristen. And we're so excited to reach out to us and let us know how we can help you guys live your best life. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right,
And
girl. I'll talk to you soon.
all right, bye.
Bye bye.